Part 3 of the War on Drugs series, guys, and we are reading from the Drug Wars Trading Cards. This is a pack of 36 cards. Very informative, guys. And we are on numbers 11 through 15. We are going to talk about, what have we talked about so far? How the CIA, they have flooded the streets with crack cocaine in the 80s and 90s. And this is absolutely deliberate. This isn't just some one-off thing. And we talked about the United States government, CIA, being involved with drug trafficking and with the mobsters in Sicily, heroin, and they were in bed with the Yakuza guys, and so all over the world, guys. In part 3, we're going to talk about Laos, Cambodia, more heroin talk, CIA and how the banks get involved, and we're going to talk about the Mujahideen. That's going to be the last card, Guns and Poppies. But yeah, in case you're new here, guys, the war on drugs is a complete scam. It's rooted in racism. It's used to flood the streets and destroy working class neighborhoods, especially any organization that's left wing or anybody that's trying to organize and fight back against the system. You know what I mean? Like the Black Panthers is a perfect example. Deliberately, the FBI, CIA, you know, the more people addicted to drugs, the more disorganized you are. That's one reason why the CIA and the U.S. government declared a war on drugs. You know, more funding for the police and the militarization of the police. It gives them a excuse to do that, and it just keeps people distracted, man. Disorganized. So I'm going to be reading some more of these cards, guys. So hopefully this inspires you to, it'll turn a light bulb on, guys, just to show how bad, how evil the U.S. government is, okay? So let's start with our man in Laos. This is card number 11 from the deck. Let's read. Each of these cards has a story with cool facts. So let's read. Our man in Laos, titled General Vang Pao. One of America's dirtiest drug deals was made during the U.S. secret war in Laos from 1961 to 1973. The CIA set up a secret military base in Laos, Laos' second largest city, Long Tieng, often called Spook Heaven. Air America, a CIA proprietary, flew up to 400 flights a day in and out of Long Tieng in order to supply an army of 40,000 Hmong, or Mao, tribesmen, mercenaries who were fighting communist forces in northern Laos. The CIA supplied army was led by General Vang Pao, a major Laotian, did I say that right, opium supplier. Air America transported his opium from Hmong villages, where it was grown to markets in Vientiane, Laos, in Saigon, South Vietnam. In 1967, the CIA helped Vang Pao set up his own airline. Named Siang Quang Air Transport, it was soon dubbed Air Heroin by the Air America employees who piloted the planes. Vang Pao's original CIA case officer, Anthony A. Posfany, aka Tony Po, was transferred out of Long Tieng after he complained to his superiors about the opium traffic. According to Tony Po, Vang Pao was making millions because he had his own avenue for heroin. We were giving him freedom of navigation into Thailand. They weren't going to Thailand. They were flying over to Da Nang, and then President Thieu, South Vietnam's president, 1968-1975, would receive it. It was like a big organized mafia, end quote. A secret Department of Defense report later showed that the CIA spent $60 million more in Laos than they got from Congress. Many CIA men who ran the Laotian war surfaced during the Iran-Contra scandal, including Richard Secord, Theodore Shackley, Thomas Clines, John Singlob, and Rafael Chichi Quintero. Guys, so Google all of those names, man. If you guys don't believe what I'm reading from these cards. So what did we do to Asia, guys? Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. chemical warfare, um, the amount of birth defects and deformities, the war crimes, the defoliation, guys. But on top of all of that, on top of all of that, it was you got to deal drugs as well with right-wing extremists, real bad guys. You got to trade guns, drugs, and funds, So you can destroy communist, leftist movements, revolutionary movements, guys. That's what it's about. That's what the U.S. government does, man. Whatever it takes to kill those people, get them out of existence, that's what the CIA, the U.S. government does. So, our man in Laos, that was card number 11. Let's read card number 12, guys. Card number 12 is Colby and Company. This is titled The Vietnam Drug War. So let's read the back. According to former CIA Director William Colby, the CIA has a solid rule against being involved in drug trafficking. That's not to say that some of the people whom the CIA has used over the years may well be themselves have been involved in drug trafficking, but not the CIA. That was a quote, sorry. Colby should know. From 1959 to 1972, he oversaw most major U.S. intelligence operations in the Vietnam theater, undertaken in support of a series of drug-corrupted South Vietnamese leaders like Nguyen Dinh Diem, 1955 to 1963, Nguyen Cao Khai, 1965 to 1967, and Nguyen Van Thieu, 1968 to 1975. Diem's brother, Nguyen Dinh Nhu, head of South Vietnam Secret Police, guaranteed safe conduct for the Corsian-run Air Laos Commercial that ship opium from Laos to Vietnam. Nhu used his profits to expand the scope of the secret police's power. After Diem's CIA-sponsored 1963 assassination, Khai became commander of the Vietnamese Air Force, which, in 2 years, displaced the Corsian airline as the prime mover of Laotian opium. Khai also taxed opium shipments through his control of both the Vietnamese Customs Service and the Saigon Port Authority. Thu's intelligence chief, General Dang Phong Quang, was by 1971 the biggest pusher in South Vietnam, according to NBC Saigon correspondent Phil Brady. Colby became CIA director in 1973. In 1976, he formally retired but soon became a lawyer for the Australian-based CIA-connected Nguyen Han Bank. There he joined forces again with several men previously under his command in Vietnam: Theodore Shackley, Thomas Clines, Richard Secord, and the bank's co-founder, Michael Hand. So there you go, guys. The same names are popping up again. Let's go to card number 13. This is titled The War Comes Home. GI Junkies on the back. That's kind of the title, actually. So let's read this one. As a result of allying with Southeast Asian heroin dealers in the fight against communism, the U.S. government created an epidemic of heroin addiction among American troops in Vietnam. At first, this was a minor problem as only low-grade heroin was being produced in the Golden Triangle, but in 1969, Chinese chemists went to Laos and began producing high-grade number 4 heroin. As a cover for purchasing the chemicals used in the process, Chinese gangster Hu Tim Hang built a Pepsi-Cola bottling plant in Vientiane, Laos, with money supplied by the U.S. Agency for International Development, an unofficial arm of the CIA. Hang's heroin was distributed by the smuggling apparatus of then Vice President Nguyen Cao Khai. The heroin was flown to Saigon by the South Vietnamese Air Force and sold by dealers, many of them teenage girls, at stands outside U.S. military bases. By 1971, 10 to 15% of low-ranking enlisted men were hooked. GIs began shipping heroin to the U.S., some going so far as to cut open the bodies of dead soldiers and stuffing them with up to 50 pounds of heroin per corpse. Between 1965 and 1972, the number of heroin addicts in the state soared from 150,000 to 560,000. In 1973, then-President Nixon formally wrote off 2,000 missing GIs as dead, when in fact many were POWs captured in secret wars in Laos and Cambodia. In the 1980s, British spy master Sir William Stevenson and Texas billionaire H. Ross Perot investigated the fate of these men. They concluded at least 20 were still alive, but found their search blocked by American intelligence officials still involved in heroin trafficking. Okay, guys, so this card, so there's a lot of opposition to the Vietnam War, okay, guys? A lot of opposition. How do you get those people distracted, control them? You flood them with drugs so they can't speak out, they get addicted, and they destroy their lives, guys. That's the U.S. government. That's what the CIA did. So definitely a good card there. All right, card number 14. The CIA's banker. On the back, it's titled The Nugan Hand Bank. This is a good one, guys. I haven't talked about how banks set this whole war on drugs thing up, guys, because you know what? It's liquid cash, man. Tax-free. That's the thing with drug dealing, man. And this is where the banks come in. Check it out. The Nugan Hand Bank, card 14. In January 1980, Frank Nugan, co-founder of the Australian-based Nugan Hand Bank, was found shot dead in his car on the outskirts of Sydney. Over the next few years, the Australian government investigated the firm's mysterious activities. They discovered that the bank did no legitimate banking during its 7-year existence. What it did do was launder money for many large Asian drug traffickers and arrange arms sales to several third world countries. The bank's officials were mostly retired U.S. military and CIA personnel, such as Admiral Earl P. Yates, former chief of the Navy's Pacific Strategies, General Leroy J. Maynard, former chief of staff for the U.S. Pacific Command, General Erie Koch Jr. and Edwin F. Black, Walter McDonald, former CIA Deputy Director, William Colby, former CIA Director, and Nugan's co-founder, Michael John Hand, a former Special Forces operative in Laos, who disappeared shortly after the bank collapsed. The investigation showed strong links between the bank and Hand's CIA superiors in Laos, Theodore Shackley and Thomas Clines, as well as with former CIA Navy intelligence agent Edwin Wilson. Wilson's longtime partner, Frank Turpill, explained Nugan Hand's role in the CIA drug wars in a 1983 interview. Where do drugs come? Okay, quote. Where do drugs come from? Laos. Who was the boss of Clines? Shackley. Where did they come from? Laos. The pilot was Secord. What was on the plane? Gold. He was going to pay off the warlords, the drug lords. Now what do you do with all the opium? You reinvest it in your own operations. Billions of dollars, not millions. Billions. Where did the money come from? Nugan Hand. Close quote. Man, I'd really like to look up that news report of this guy mysteriously getting shot in his car, man. He probably wanted more money or something, or he knew too much, you know. Alright, guys, one more card. One more card right here. This is card number 15, titled Guns and Poppies. So, more opium stuff. The back's titled Afghan Mujahideen. Let's continue. So now, we're going to Afghanistan, guys. Where have we been? We've been with the mob in Sicily. We've been crack cocaine, South Central Los Angeles, which was brought from South America, guys. So we got South America, we got Asia. We're going all over the world. So now this is our first time talking about Afghanistan. So, all right. After a 1978 Marxist coup, the government of Afghanistan mounted an anti-narcotics campaign against the opium-growing Mujahideen tribal groups near the Pakistan border. As these fundamentalist Muslims stepped up opium production to finance their resistance to Marxist rule, the Soviets invaded Afghanistan to prop up the government. The CIA used Pakistan's military to funnel arms to the Mujahideen. Rebel leaders shipped tons of opium out of the same pipeline. In 1984, despite full knowledge of these drug deals, the U.S. pledged to give Pakistan's ruler, General Zia, ul Haq, It's UL-HAQ. $5 billion in military aid, y'all. 2 years later, the U.S. State Department admitted Afghanistan was the world's top producer of opium for export. Zia's chief minister, personal banker, and pilot were all implicated in the trade. By 1988, when the Soviets left Afghanistan, 100 heroin labs were operating in Pakistan, and, as had happened to U.S. forces in Vietnam, thousands of Soviet troops went home hooked on heroin. By 1989, Southeast Asia's Golden Triangle had resumed leadership of the world's opium production, with Burma by far the leading source. 2,600 tons in 1989. Burmese drug lord Khun Sa, Khun, and then S.A. is his last name. An ethnic Chinese controls the lion's share of this production, and supplies the Hong Kong triads who make China White, a pure form of heroin which accounts for 70% of the world's supply. Burmese General Ne Win, the Noriega of Southeast Asia, is on the take. His violent regime murdered thousands of pro-democracy demonstrators in 1988. Assistant Secretary of State Melvin Levitsky admits Ne Win's drug-dealing ways, but adds, "We have no plans for," quote, "we have no plans for any kind of military action. It would violate another country's borders," end quote. So there you go, guys. What does the CIA, U.S. government do? They trade drugs to destroy any opposition, any leftist movement, guys. So there you go. Today is part 3 done of the war on drugs. I hope you guys enjoyed that.